Hello, and welcome to The Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and The Kosh is a podcast that spotlights people who've had an association with the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities region. Kosh listeners, how are you doing? Not only that, I'm going to start saying a little something more to that. So I want to say, welcome to The Kosh, sponsored by Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distillery. I want to give a big shout out to Sturgeon Spirits, new sponsor of The Kosh. And yes, I'm going to pub this all through the episode. Make no doubt about it. This is new for 2024. Okay, so Kosh, you already know what I gotta do. I gotta kind of give y'all the update on what's going on this fine morning. Once again, it is a beautiful fine morning in Wisconsin, and it is what I want to call the first official substantial snow of the year. Now, normally, you know how I feel about snow. Snow is a 4-letter word to me, but I'm gonna treat this as a blessing. Not because it's snowing, but it's a blessing because we didn't get to snow until January. And I'm pretty happy about that, actually. It was nice not to have to deal with snow until this day. So I'm grateful. And I'm not going to lie. It was looking a little dry and rough out there in Mother Nature. And so the snow is pretty. I got to admit that. I don't like to admit it, but I will admit it for this. Okay, Kosh listeners. I think you know what I'm about to say. Yeah, it's that time. I don't know why I continue to get these amazing guests. And I'm super excited about this week's episode because this person is doing so much for their community, so much for everyone. They jumped on the road and traveled here, so that's always huge. So definitely introducing somebody who's not in the Kosh, but you know what? There are no boundaries to the Kosh. We celebrate amazing people out here doing amazing things. So I'm pretty excited about this. So you already know what time it is. Without further ado, this week's guest is Maria Harris. Maria, what's going on?
Hola, hola.
Yes. You know what? I just want you to know you will not be getting any substantial Espanol back from me. I got your uno, dos, and tres. That's about it.
Está bien, lo que puedas, whatever you can.
My Espanol expands to Sesame Street. If Sesame Street had it back in the day in the 80s, I know it well.
Love it.
I did try the class several times. And it was all jacked up. In high school, I had a Spanish teacher, but he was from England. So he had an English accent trying to teach us Spanish, and it was just all to shame.
I cannot even imagine what that accent sounds like. But hey, we're in the same boat. I'm trying to relearn my Spanish and feel confident in it. So the more that I can speak it and use it, the better it is for me, even if I might also not say the right things all the time.
Oh, you're working through it.
Working through it.
Okay,
yeah.
That's all right. Well, you know what? May this be the Kosh's first official Spanglish episode.
Perfecto, me encanta.
This is going to be fantastic. I'm already excited about this. Maria, can you please share a little something about yourself and your connection to the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area?
Por supuesto. So Maria Harris, she, her, ella. I am a proud first-generation Mexicana. My family is from Michoacan, Mexico. Spanish is my first language. However, English is now my primary. So that's why I said I am trying to work on being more confident in my Spanish. I am your typical millennial doodle dog mom. I am married with an amazing husband who is just the most supportive being I could have ever landed, for sure. We live out in the country. We just bought our first home, which as a first generation daughter of immigrants, never in my life imagined even getting to land a home in general, let alone having something out in the country, something that, you know, we both dreamed of. And so I outside of that, some of my hobbies, I really enjoy golfing, which is something I know. The face, if y'all could see the face. So it's something that I never thought I would say. Those were some of my first dates with my husband, was going to golf simulators and such. And really, I was just interested in the guy. So of course you go.
Oh, is that how that works?
That's how that works.
Oh, that's facts.
And then through COVID, when it was a season of not getting to see people, not having a lot of community touch points, I decided to pick up golf, and, it was an easy way to social distance, but still kind of being outside and being around people. I ended up meeting some really amazing women in a golf lessons for women. It used to be called Women Who Don't Golf. So it was really just, you kind of learn some stuff about golf, but you're really there to just socialize and drink margaritas and eat good food after.
Oh, wow.
So now I can admit I do like golf. I really enjoy that in the summer. You can catch me there every week. I really enjoy rollerblading or running. My newest hobby has been reading, which another thing that I never imagined myself saying, but I love reading, moving my body in various ways. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay. That's what's up. You got me on the golf. You're right. I totally made the face. It's my own personal relationship with golf, which is non-existent. I don't have one. I do. It's a funky relationship with golf. I've only gone out on the course maybe 2 or 3 times, and I just can't get into trying so hard to hit this little white ball and then chasing it around this big green grass. My golf story comes about as I bought, when Tiger Woods really got popular, right? And particularly in for black people, like every young black man, and I was at college at the point when Tiger Woods really came out and started winning, right? So all my friends were starting to golf. We were all thinking, oh, okay, if Tiger golfs, we can golf. Like, it's our time, right? And I went and bought some clubs, and my boy and me and him went out there, and I returned those clubs after we were done and bought me some fishing equipment, bought me some new fishing rods, because I figured out real quick, that's not my game. Not my game.
Bruh.
That's okay.
Okay. So you recently switched professions.
I did.
Hey, break that down. What were you doing before and what you doing now?
Yeah, so my prior job was the Multicultural Resource Coordinator at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. So I had my hands in a lot of pots, which was one of my favorite things about the job. But mostly my job was student retention, and more specifically the retention and graduation for Latinx, African American, and Asian American students at our main campus in Wausau and in Marshfield. So I was there for about a year and a half. Amazing job. I am trying to recruit people for them because it was just such an impactful, incredible, joyful, sometimes emotionally taxing position, getting to work with the students and getting to show them or expose them to experiences and ways of thinking that maybe they never have ever considered. So that's what I did previously.
And you're doing now?
And now I am the college recruitment and program specialist for a local company in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Similar to my prior job, I have my hands in a lot of pots, which I'm finding is something that I'm really loving. I'm a very type A personality, so organization, spreadsheets, all of that is my jam. And so the main focus of my job is the strategic planning and partnership with our colleges and even more so local high schools, trying to bridge the gap, trying to bring professional development opportunities for students and expose them to opportunities that maybe they hadn't thought about. So it's similar to my prior job, but it has impacts in different ways.
All right. I feel that because, I used to kind of do that same work, and I love the students, but them students also could drive you crazy because you be trying to put them on game, and then they just do some wild stuff.
Yes.
And you're like, Now, why did you do that? You know you weren't supposed to do that.
Yep.
But I guess that's growth.
Yes. And that was such a beautiful part of it. And like I said, I still get to work with students just in a different way. But yes, they could drive you a little nuts, but it was always so incredibly impactful when you saw them take their own advice and not the advice that you might give them, but seeing them learn through that and sometimes come back and be like, you were right. There's a little joy in that too, but seeing them work through it on their own is amazing.
Every once in a while, they'll come back and let you know.
Yes.
Not all the time.
Right.
That's the fact. If you weren't doing what you do professionally right now, what would you like to be doing?
I really love creativity, and I'm learning this more about myself the more I continue to dig in and do my own inner healing. So I love the idea of going to school and learning about fashion. My mom was a huge sewer growing up. We grew up incredibly poor, so we didn't really have another option but for her to know how to sew and mend clothes and kind of fix things up for us. But she also was crafty. She would make bouquets, crocheted bouquets of flowers for baby showers and doilies and all these really fun things. And so I am getting into that more. I really love the idea of learning about fashion and learning about body types and what flatters and make people feel confident in the ways that you style clothing. So I think that would be really fun, as well as color matching. Have you heard about color matching?
Well, go further because maybe.
So it's this concept of we're trying to find what colors make your skin glow or it complements you. Okay. So at the end of the day, you can wear whatever the heck colors you really want to, but it's really just a way to say these are the colors based on your undertones that just complement you. So there's a whole process to it. I think that would be so much fun, learning about the color theory. And I also think interior design would be really fun. So if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would definitely lean into more of that creative style.
All right, let me give you this color matching thing because I'm feeling you on the color matching thing, but I got a theory on this. And this is just my theory as a black man. And the theory is this. Look, this amazing tan of mine looks good in any bright colors. Now, here's the beautiful thing about that. You know what tends to be on clearance? Bright colors.
Bright colors.
So I can buy that shirt, that loud lime green shirt, that neon blue shirt. It pops on this tan. So that's what I do. I pop all that, and then you know what I do next? I find the bow tie that matches it.
Of course.
That is how we do it. And I'm actually very grateful for this tan for those reasons. So I don't know about the color matching, but what I have figured out that I can't rock. Like you can't rock like over neutral. So I can't go like brown. I can't go brown on brown. Oh no, you're brown rocking. You good.
I feel called out a little bit.
Oh no, you are good.
I love a good monochrome look.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, I do too. Actually, I'm not against that because look, my other thing is this. I like things that are simple and easy to match. So you know what I've been thinking about? I've been thinking about getting me some of those like mechanic suits. The ones, just the one, I want to call it a onesie. But I don't know if mechanics would like it very much if I call it a onesie. So we're not going to call it that. We're just going to say that one-piece suit that you zip yourself into. And then I think I'm going to get me a little name patch on that joker.
And your bow tie.
Yeah. Well, no bow ties in that joker. But a pair of Timberlands will accompany. Okay. And we went down the fashion road now. All right. You ready to jump into the first segment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
First segment is called What in the World is Going On With? That's where you start with the phrase, what in the world? And then you tell us what's on your mind. So, Maria, let's go.
All right. Right now, I'm going to say what in the world is going on with 10-year-olds in Sephora. I have been seeing by my own experience, but also on social media or TikTok, these Sephoras are being haunted by 10, 11, 12-year-olds going in to buy face serums and anti-aging creams and things that they're 10, they're 11, things that I'm barely now getting into as a 30-year-old. And not just is this new generation of kids over-focused or hyper-focused on anti-aging beauty at such a young age, but also where I'm not a parent. But what does that look like? Where are those boundaries? I remember growing up, and this could be just that I'm Mexicana. I come from a Latin household, which if you know, you know, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup until, I don't know, 16, 17. And even then, I wasn't supposed to have a boyfriend until never.
I was going to say, was it
I
ever
didn't move
allowed?
out of my home until I was married, but then family moves in with you, right? There's all these cultural boundaries and cultural things, and that maybe expand to other cultures and identities, but dang, I have been seeing an influx of these young girls just itching. I want to look young. I want aging serums and all of these things that I'm just like, you are 10. You have the most beautiful prime skin right now.
Right?
Yes. So it's a little heartbreaking.
I didn't know this was a thing. Now, this is new to me. Okay, so this is a thing. What do you think's causing this?
I think social media, and that feels so taboo to say, but the more that we are in mindlessly scrolling, we're seeing all of these influencers become big, and they're recommending this and they're recommending that and they're using this. People, that I watch, I'll admit, there's some influencers, beauty influencers that I follow that I really enjoy, and I am influenced. I get it. So if I'm being influenced as a 30-year-old, these young girls are just easily being imprinted as well. So I think it's that mindless scrolling, constantly seeing people telling you what to buy, where back in my day, and I hate saying that because it makes me feel old, we had MySpace and there was no influencers.
Bruh. Did you really just throw the MySpace out there? Wow. Okay.
All you had to worry about back then is, are you in the top friends, and what is your song on your page? And is your page cute? Does it have glitter floating down? If you know, you know. But, we didn't have every single moment of every single day someone throwing products at you.
Yeah. No, I actually think you're right. I actually think there's TikTok to it. I do think it's a powerful platform. And I don't know what to do. I mean, well, it's not for anything for me to do about it because I've got a grown child. So she grown. She can do what she want to do. But I don't know how you do that. And I think just from my understanding, even from talking with my daughter, there's so many good tips on this makeup stuff on a TikTok, and they're showing you actually, right? Because there's a huge difference between going in and buying products, but when you've got people showing you how to apply it, and then I think there's a curiosity factor. Yes. I want to see if I can kind of make myself look like that or do something. So having the visualization of it, not just if you didn't see somebody do it and you just saw the end product, I don't know if that's the same impact as being able to watch how somebody does it. And then you're curious and you're like, I want to go buy these things to see if I can do that too. I don't know.
I could say so much more, but yeah, absolutely. Like I said, and I'm guilty to it too. I'm influenced in beauty and style. That's where I've learned what I do know about color matching and fashion and styling and interior design. And I learned how to sand down a dresser and refurbish it. And I learned how to cook this really delicious pork chop that I made for New Year's. I mean, you learn so much. There is so much good that you can take out, but dang, it makes an impression.
Okay. I don't know if I'll ever get to see it because I can't see myself being in Sephora. So I think I'm safe from it. But, I hear you. I'm curious, Kosh listeners, is this something you also have heard? Get at us, talk to us. send us an email at askthekasha@gmail.com. My what in the world is going on with is what in the world is going on with Katt, the Katt Williams interview on Shannon Sharp's Shay Shay Club podcast. Now everybody ain't gonna know what I'm talking about, but right now this is huge in the Black community. This interview was scandalous. It was 3 hours of this man just exposing fellow comedians. And if you don't know who Katt Williams is, Katt Williams is considered one of the premium comics of our time. Not a Chappelle per se, but up there, right? Up there with the Steve Harveys and D.L. Hughley's and stuff like that. And Katt went on a 3-hour rant just talking about everybody, exposing things in Hollywood. Like, he just went hard. And I don't always understand when people feel that they need to so-called tell their truth like that, right? Because out of everything he said, and I'm not saying he didn't say anything positive, but the majority of it was a lot of negative. And this is like the first interview in 2024. I was like, wow. And like, to the point that the people he chose to speak about, and I encourage you, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go out there on YouTube and find it. You're going to probably get blacklisted. You're going to get blacklisted on some stuff because he talked about like Kevin Hart. Like, Kevin Hart's powerful. Steve Harvey's powerful. And not that he doesn't have his own relevancy, but like, and number two, I don't ever know when people decide to do stuff like this. Like, if they're not talking about you and they're not dragging your name through the mud, what is the purpose of doing something like this? Like, what are you productively hoping will happen other than your name? Now, I will say this was for Black Twitter, this was the hottest thing out there. Seriously. So his name is back in circulation now, and people are going back and looking up old comedy specials of his and seeing he accused people of stealing jokes. And so people are like, there's a whole investigative thing going on. Wow. And so it definitely elevated his name back into spotlight, but at what cost?
Yeah. Choosing violence. Yeah, I have not heard or watched this interview myself, but it's going to be on my list, maybe on my drive home today.
Oh, it's serious.
Put it on.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. I just don't understand it, especially to come out swinging like he came out swinging. But, I guess to each their own. But if you don't know, take some time and go know. Yeah. Because it's now, to be fair, it is funny. Now that's the caveat, because he is a comedian. Mm-hmm. So there's delivery to it. So there's harm in there for the individuals he's talking about, but it is funny. There's some very funny stuff in there that he's talking about people. So, all right. Gosh, listeners, don't blame me. Listen at your own risk also. Just know that he's not a filtered comedian. So you have been warned. Okay. So I think we are ready for the next segment. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The next segment is called 21 Questions. 21 Questions is not that we have 21 questions, but we might be getting 21 answers out of you out of these several questions that we do have. These are highly in-depth questions, and this just helps us get into your vibe. Mm-hmm. Okay? We want to know who Maria is.
Let's go.
Okay. Question 1. What are you grateful for?
As of right now, this very moment, well, I'm always grateful for my husband. When I say he has been my rock and my support, it's in many ways, but one of the biggest ways he has been my support is actually in my career. He is the person who pushed me to go for my previous job, a job that I had never worked in higher education. I worked with young adults. I've always really been passionate about being youth group leaders within the churches that I went to. So pouring into young adults has always been something that's been in my heart. but never professionally. I've never worked with young adults. And so there was this imposter syndrome that I have felt in every career transition. And with my prior job, I wasn't going to submit my application. He actually had to come in and click submit for me because I felt that inadequate for that position. And he just pushes me and supports me. And now with my current job, you know, moving from higher education into corporate, it is a whole different ballgame. And once again, he was the one to come in and be like, look at what you've done in this job at the university and look at how it applies here. Look how qualified you are. And again, he was the person who was like, you can do this. I know you can. And so first things first, my husband, 100%. I'm thankful for my dog. I know that sounds silly. Millennial dog moms get it. But my family unit, you know, where he's 29, I'm 30, and we just bought our home last year, almost a year ago, and we just became empty nesters, which I'm going to explain. But our family unit is something that I feel so grateful for. I feel so grateful that it's our little family right now and feel really happy about that. I feel really grateful for my sister. So my husband and I took legal guardianship of my little sister when we were 26 and 27 at the very beginning of COVID. So we became parents essentially of a teenage girl overnight. And that was a wild experience. You know, as a daughter of undocumented immigrants and an older sibling, I've always had to care for my younger siblings when I lived at home. So you parent your siblings and then you parent your parents because you're their translator, you're the person who is helping them navigate through a world that they don't understand. And anyways, I could get into a whole about that, but I'm really grateful for my little sister. I learned so much about myself, about my marriage, about my family through being a legal guardian to a teenager. I want to say at a young age. I know people have kids at a much younger age, but I feel so much gratitude for that experience and what it taught me and how I was able to grow through that. And I'm thankful for the different leaps that I've taken in my career. Again, I probably wouldn't be where I am without the support of my husband and the push from him and his confidence in me. But I would say the last thing I'm grateful for right now that I'm thinking about it is my mentors. I started this whole discovery journey in the middle of COVID, as so many people did. You reevaluated what you valued, what was important to you. And through that process, I was able to just gain some really incredible mentors along the way who have just poured into me. And I remember there's one particular person. I think when I thought of mentors, you think of one person, but there's one particular mentor that was like, I got a spiritual mentor, I got a personal mentor, I got a professional mentor, I got a parenthood mentor. He had mentors across the board. And that really inspired me to find people along the way that I looked up to in different ways and asking them to, hey, you want to pour into me?
Oh, yes.
You want to share your knowledge?
Yes.
Or experience or be a sounding board. And I feel so much gratitude for that. It's not something, coming from a household where you don't talk about feelings, you don't talk about experiences, you just shove it down, you stay quiet, you don't embarrass the family name, you don't let the tias gossip, chismear, it's such a healing thing to be able to open yourself up to people and allow them into, and I'm going to get emotional, allow them to get insight on what you're going through.
There's so many things there. And normally I don't stop the flow, but we're going to have a conversation real quick here. I remember our first conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to tell you, your trajectory has blown me away because you were at the beginning of your journey right then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had an impactful conversation. I tried to give you as much good game as I could for where you were headed. So I hope it was helpful.
Yes.
I want to come back. Maybe we won't do it in this segment, but I want to come back and I do want to talk about what it's like when you have immigrant parents and you as the child have to help them navigate. That's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a conversation. I don't think everybody always understands the responsibility that falls on children in those kinds of scenarios, because they're like literally they're in it for everything. And I've been in situations where, you know, I've got the 12-year-old when I was an insurance agent, I've got the 12-year-old in there translating to do insurance for parents and other things. And I know it happens with medical stuff. And like, there's so many places where you're this child and you are stuck translating information that you may not, you don't understand yourself. You're not ready to share and you don't really want to know.
Yes. Oh, yes. And right off of that, you have to grow up fast. Because of the conversations that you are listening to, that you're a part of, you're forced to be a grown-up and, you know, listening to the things that a child should never have to worry about at night. It's an experience, and sadly, it's an experience of so many people.
What motivates you?
I would say making an impact is something that motivates me, specifically in underserved communities. And this is so interesting because if I would have asked myself 10 years ago what motivates me, it would be a completely different story, right? I want to say I am a newborn in exploring my culture and my identity, and more specifically being proud of it. For so long, I worked hard to blend in and just be like everyone else in my town, which is Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which, if you know, it is primarily Polish, which means white.
And look, you didn't need to pause on that. You just call it for what it is. Wait, Wisconsin knows who they are.
They do. But now it is something that weighs heavily on my heart. And that is something that motivates me, is knowing that I am making an impact in any underserved community, but especially Latinx communities. And just continuing to be the representation and a voice the way I wish I would have seen someone when I was growing up, and in these phases of life where I wanted nothing to do with my identity because of the shame I felt. So it motivates me to be in spaces that don't have people that look like me, and knowing that young Latinx adults will see that and be like, hey, there's a Latina there. I can do that. I can be there. I'm allowed. That motivates me.
What grounds you?
Journaling. Journaling has been something that I have done since I was in high school. I didn't even know back then it was a coping mechanism. And through therapy, that's what I've learned. And thankfully, it's a healthy coping mechanism. But journaling is something that grounds me. Being able to put the scribbles in my brain on a piece of paper and seeing that scribble being pulled into a line where it kind of makes sense. That is so helpful for me. Also, moving my body. That has been something that it's been a long journey of moving my body in a way that is honoring and not to be X, Y, or Z. So working out, whether that's Pilates or YouTube videos or running or brisk walks, something, that's another thing that grounds me.
What does success look like to you?
Personal success for me is financial freedom and financial literacy, as well as emotional healing. And, that is all a journey. I mentioned earlier, we grew up extremely poor, and, being able to understand finances and how we can make that work for us is something that I find successful. Being financially free is something that I find successful. Paying off school loans and car loans and knowing that I get to own these things. And I think in general, that's such a great accomplishment for people, but especially and I hate coming back to this, but especially as a daughter of immigrant parents, it's one of those things that it's just like, dang, that is so cool that I got to this point in my life where I feel this financial freedom and I don't have to stress about it. Emotional healing, that is something that is successful for me. I have been on a therapy journey for the last pretty much since we became parents overnight. I've been going to therapy pretty regularly and working through understanding myself and why I am who I am, how being a daughter of immigrant parents impacted things that I've done or things that I continue to do. Being able to have insight on that is success to me, because again, not just Latin cultures, but a lot of cultures, you don't really talk about the hard things, about the feelings, about what you need to work through or how you can grow. You just shove it in. And yeah, so that would be personal. Professionally, I mentioned making an impact, but while also being able to feel like I'm supporting my family through my work financially.
I want to break away and just take a moment and ask you a different kind of question.
Yeah.
But I think it falls well in 21 questions. And that is, can you help us understand what it's like growing up with immigrant parents and that experience of like your parents really were from here and now they're here? Like, what don't we understand about the immigrant experience and growing up in the household as the children in the experience with your parents as they're transitioning? Because I feel like there's so much I don't know if we ever get a chance to actually ask, can you help us understand a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
What don't we know?
What don't you know?
Which is everything. I know we don't know anything, but what can you share? What is comfortable enough to share?
I love being able to talk about this because I feel like people don't talk about it enough, and it makes people feel isolated and feel like their experience is only their experience. So I'm here for this conversation. So just a little backstory. My mom migrated to the U.S. illegally, I want to say in her late 20s, early 30s, which that in itself, trying to wrap your head around hiring a stranger to I've heard the stories of her walking through the border and, they're on barely having any water and having tortillas every single day for 4 days, walking day and night, hiding. This terrifying. There's so much more, but wrapping my head around her doing that at the age that I am now, leaving your home, leaving your language, leaving your comfortability in hopes that you can make enough of a living to support your family is wild to me. Like, I try and think about that sometimes, me having to do that now. Like, what if I had to move to India or
Yeah.
Wherever, France, I don't know, where I don't know the language or the culture and navigating. And it's just, it blows my mind. So she migrated to the U.S. illegally in her late 20s, early 30s. I was born in the U.S. I feel so much privilege being able to say that. I know that that is not the experience of everyone. I'm grateful to have been born here, to not have to have the concerns for me personally. My 2 younger siblings were also born in the U.S., so all 3 of us are U.S. citizens. So it was just my mom and us 3. Having, when I was really young, I remember going to school for the first time. And I remember this so clearly that I remember sitting in the back all by myself with my ESL teacher because I didn't know the language. We only spoke Spanish at home, and learning English and the struggle that felt like, the isolation of not really being able to communicate until I learned the language. So that in itself already makes you see yourself differently from others. And then I want to say 9, 10, 11, I started translating for my mom. At that point, she knew she had very broken English. She understood more than what she could speak. But when it came to anything legal, medical, school-wise, I was always being taken out of school to go to these appointments with her to be her translator. Imagine your 9-year-old translating school documents, or, I don't even know what grade that is. It's crazy to me. And then, we got to a point, she always worked dishwasher jobs, worked, as an immigrant, not knowing the language already creates a barrier for you to be able to get a good job. But then when you're undocumented, you have to find jobs that hopefully pay under the table, that you don't, they're not going to be luxurious. So she only ever worked as a dishwasher, a busser. She worked in some factories. But, when I was in my younger teens, she was working 2-3 jobs at a time, which meant now I was at home with the kids. So she would be gone before we had to go to school. I would get the kids ready, make them breakfast, make sure, they got to the bus, they did their homework. I would receive them after school and then make sure they were all set. We would leave them alone. My mom would be working when I started to work. My paycheck started to help pay for my family's bills, which was such a huge help to my mom. But I started working at 14, and those paychecks started to go towards our family. And when I started to work, then my little brother, who's 6 years younger than me, then kind of became who I was. He was now in charge of making sure the youngest one was taken care of. So that's, and that kind of went through until graduation, where I made the very difficult for me decision to move to Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And it was heartbreaking because my family was losing my paycheck. I had family members who said I was abandoning my family. And, why don't you just find a college here near your family, go to a tech school? I knew that if I did that, I would never break the generational cycles that I needed to. And leaving my little brother, knowing that now he had to be the grown up in the home and care for our mom and our younger sibling. It's not a unique story. That's the thing, it is my story, but that's not unique. So I wish I could say I'm telling you things that you don't know or listeners don't know, but that's a reality of so many people.
To be fair, I don't think there's a lot of people who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We all live in our silos.
Yeah.
We don't always get to meet a Latina.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we do, we don't always feel comfortable enough to ask the question.
Yeah.
What's, the whole immigration thing, the border thing is super political, right? Mm-hmm. What's the biggest myth that you think people don't get? Like, what's the biggest myth? Because I feel like because it's politicized, mm-hmm. there's a bunch of crappy narratives that I just think are probably not true. But I can't speak to it because I don't know either. But what's the biggest myths about just the experience as a whole? It doesn't have to be directed at that, but
the biggest myth, I would say two of the biggest myths is that we're all cartel people, right? We're all drug lords. We're all smuggling in things we shouldn't be. When in reality, you know, I see videos of moms with 2-week-olds crossing the desert, swimming through the river, hoping that their babies are safe and they make it safe to the other side. There's bad people everywhere. And I think I know that we're fearful of what we don't know or what we're not familiar with. The second thing is that we're taking everyone's jobs. I don't know how many people are lined up to be dishwashers and bussers. Maybe 14-year-olds, easy money.
Nope.
Good.
Nope, you can't even get them anymore.
Let me tell you, when I worked at the university, I could sometimes things that I would hear from students about they're desperate for a job. And I see McDonald's, Taco Bell, all these places open. No. Oh, but not fast food. Oh, and not retail. Okay.
Then you ain't desperate for a job.
Let's talk through this. Let's work through this. So you need money. Let's figure out how we can get you that until you can be in a place to be picky.
Facts.
Yes, it is something I feel so passionately about, but also because I, just like my mom, would work whatever job it took. And she didn't have the privilege ever of being able to say, I don't want to do that. Like, no, she was going to take whatever she could get to make sure that we had food on our table and a roof over our heads. And that's what I learned, right? When I first moved to Point, I had $40 in my pocket, and I actually had to give my mom $20 for gas because she didn't have enough money. So I only had $20 in my pocket after she dropped me off. No jobs. Moved into an apartment with 4 other women that I met through, you just meet people through friends and such. I went immediately that next week and I got 2 jobs, one at the McDonald's and one at a YMCA, and started immediately. And it was one of those things like, do I really want to work at McDonald's? No, but I needed what I needed until I got to a point where like, okay, I feel comfortable. I'm a student. I can figure things out from there.
Picky is a privilege.
Yeah.
I grew up like that too.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the same kind of scenarios, but what I will say is the same understanding of like an honest job is an honest job. Mm-hmm. And if when you got to pay the bills, you take an honest job. You do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do.
Right?
Exactly.
I worked the breakfast shift at Mickey D's. Look, I've lived that life.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for just having this conversation with us. Okay. We're back on the 21 questions. What irritates you?
This is something I'm working on myself and something that I'm really trying to be conscious about, but yucking other people's yum. So I heard this phrase from actually one of my girlfriends that I met at golf. I was in a downtime. I was in a time where everyone was in a downtime during the end of COVID. And I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel good about where I was in my life, my career. It was the point where I was evaluating everything. I always say I had a quarter life crisis because I just felt so depressed, which also meant I was projecting a lot of my depression and self-consciousness on others. So I found myself always yucking people's yum. And it wasn't until that girlfriend essentially called me out in front of the people that I had yucked their yum that I was like, holy crap, why am I doing this? Why does it matter to me that I don't like something that someone else likes? And that's been, a whole journey of really being conscious of, you know what, that's not for me, but I love that it's for you. And having that attitude And so now when I witness it, that is something that irritates me because I was that person. And it irritates me in the sense of they're in a place where they can't just accept where other people are at or the things that they like, that they have to crap on it, essentially. So that's what I would say.
What scares you?
Depression. That is such a scary thing. You know, it's something that a lot of times can go unseen. And it's scary to think about how you might think you're in a place that you're okay when you're not. And that is scary to feel, to not know that you're too far gone. I would say that's really scary. And the mental health in general is always scary, but then also not mental health related. I mentioned, I'm in this journey of redefining what my culture and my identity looks like to me, which has been such a beautiful journey, a challenging journey. And it's scary to think about losing my mom. My mom is still alive. She lives in Mexico now, and she is healing her inner child, living her best life. But losing my mom before getting to learn about my family and my ancestry and the history of my family, that has been something that I have been so interested in. And every week my mom and I talk, and she updates me on our family tree. And it's been something she has never done. She has never asked questions about, and is also on this journey with me. So that's really scary too, to think that you haven't asked all the questions that you wanted to before it's all gone, and there's no way to get that back. That's terrifying.
Facts. Facts. What recharges your soul?
My in-laws. That's going to be number one always. And I feel so incredibly lucky that I have such an amazing in-law family. We always, throughout the summer, we probably see each other almost every weekend. And we're always sad at the end of the weekend. I know we're going to see you next weekend. But they are so effortless. They are I was just telling them last weekend, because they were visiting with my husband and I last weekend. We hosted all 6 of them. So there's 8 of us. And I was telling them how they are my safe space. They are the space where I don't have to really think about what I'm saying. I get to be authentically me in every single way with them. And that is such a recharging thing where there's just no effort that you have to make. And they're also just hilarious. I love them so much. So my in-laws recharge me. Spending time with them recharges me, because they're also really intentional and loving and caring. And they ask hard questions too when they need to. I don't know if people have heard this term, but rotting. Have you heard that term?
No, what is rotting?
I feel like it's a Gen Z thing. I don't know where it came about, but essentially a couch potato.
If you ain't doing nothing, you rotten.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's like a couch potato is equivalent to rotting. Okay. You're just Sundays are my rotting days. I sit my butt on the couch. And my husband watches football, and I'm reading a book, and I don't leave that couch the whole day.
Okay.
That is really recharging for me. And also, Becky G's Esquinas album has been a recharging, for my Latina soul. Her album is really the first Latinx album I've listened to in a long time, but on repeat. I listened to it the whole way here, and I guarantee I'll listen to it on the way home too. It's just such a good album. I belt it in my car.
Okay. That's what's up. You got me on this rotting thing. I think I've elevated past rotting, because if I'm just sitting on the couch, I'm probably going to take a nap.
Yep.
And then when I wake up, I'm going to watch TV for a little while and fall right back into another nap.
Yes.
I'm at that point in life.
Yeah. Rotting.
So, all right.
In a good way.
In a good way. Last question. How do you define love?
I define love as intentional and setting boundaries, period. I know.
Okay.
I think that so often people think like, oh, I have to, family, for example, I have to X, Y, and Z because they're family. I have to, whatever it is. But I think that love can be setting boundaries. Even though you love them, a friend, a partner, a family member, loving someone can also mean that you're setting boundaries for yourself, and in that you're loving on you and the things that you need. And I think people think that you don't have to set boundaries when you love people, but that's not the truth, at least not in my life.
Facts. I think you're right. I think boundaries allows you to keep loving people.
Yes.
When there are no boundaries, that you're really testing the limits when you could just set some boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Loved it. Ready for the next segment?
Let's go.
Okay. Well, you know what? Before we go into the next segment, we're going to just take a brief commercial break. And before we take this brief commercial break, I just want to take the moment and also just say that once again, the Kosh this episode of the Kosh is being sponsored by Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distillery, Oshkosh's newest tradition. It is fantastic. If you don't know about these drinks, you better ask somebody. And you can ask me because I'll be happy to tell you. It is that serious. Okay, now for our commercial break.
Did you know there are children in the Fox Valley in need of hearing aids, but their parents struggle to provide them because of lack of insurance or high copays? I am Juliette Sturkins, audiologist and board member of Here in the Fox Cities, and proud that this small local nonprofit organization has helped fund hearing aids for some 30 kids. Your donation would help more children hear. Visit hereinthefoxcities.org to learn more and to see their smiles. Every child deserves to hear.
Okay, we are back and we are ready to jump into the next segment. And the next segment is called Word Association. This is where I say a word and then, Maria, you tell us what's on your mind. Okay? So, the first word is the unifying word, the word that binds us all, the word that, I don't know, when I say it, it makes me smile. And now that I'm going to say it, I think you're already smiling. So, and that word is food.
Yes. Themed dinner parties. That is what comes to mind when I think of food, only because, and I'll explain this in my ins and outs of 2024, that is my goal, is to host themed dinner parties for my friends.
I love it. When you said it, you lit up. But now you've got me intrigued. Like, what is a themed dinner party, girl? Go on and break that down. I mean, okay. If you have set this as a goal, I feel like you already have in your mind the first theme. What's the first theme?
Galentine's dinner.
Galentine's dinner. All right. And this is going to be a dinner. This isn't going to be like some chocolate craziness, or is that part of it?
Well, that can be a part of it. So I hosted my first dinner party actually on New Year's Eve for my in-laws. I mentioned to you, I'm really getting into this like creative, just really fun part of myself that I'm really embracing and exploring. And a part of that is with food. Now, I love food in general. I'm a big foodie. I'm always in for trying new places. But for whatever reason, cooking things that aren't in my regular rotation feels unapproachable. And so I'm really trying to challenge myself to attempt new recipes, a new skill set, while getting to feed the people that I love. So for New Year's Eve, I did this really beautiful tablescaping with candles and personalized name tags that I made with watercolor paint.
Oh, you bougie.
Yeah, but that was the thing. It took me 10 minutes to make those, and I dehydrated these oranges and made some rose ice cubes and just had glitter mocktails. I mean, just fun, purposeful, intentional. And my whole in-laws, we all sat around the table together, family style. They all were in charge of a course. We had a 5-course meal, and we just broke bread. And it was just beautiful to just have us, no TV. We had some fun dinner music, and it was just intentional community conversation. So my 2024 is going to be filled with dinner parties, themed dinner parties. So my next one is for Galentine's Day on February 13th with my girlfriends. And it's going to be pink and red, and who else knows? But it's a way that I get to lean into that creativity and feed people I love.
I love everything about that. All right. Timber, 2024 gonna work on themed dinner parties. I'm not, y'all. It's called a barbecue in my house. I'm just
love it. I'm in. I'm here.
Yes, you can definitely. Hey, look, that will be a thing. Call me on that. Normally, I call people on and be like, "You got to invite me," but no, you can call me on the barbecue count. This summer, when it's warm enough for me to sit in front of a grill, I will be more than happy to handle that business. Okay, cocktail or beer?
Mocktails.
We got a favorite mocktail?
I have really been loving LaCroix, any kind of LaCroix with a straight fruit juice. So a pomegranate juice or a cranberry juice, maybe some edible glitter in there, a nice little lime. My husband and I aren't really huge drinkers in general, unless we're with my in-laws. Then the wine is just flowing, conversation is flowing, and it's a great time. But I really want to be at the point in my life where I'm comfortable saying no to alcohol, just because I don't want it, not because of anything else. And I'm really hoping that mocktails make their comeback this year.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I do. You know what? That's a theme. You're not the first person I've had a mocktail conversation with in the last couple of weeks even. And I just think it's a thing. There's a lot of people who there's definitely a space for it. And I think there's even a place where someone should probably open a mocktail bar, where you can have it. I think it would be awesome because then you could go during lunch. Have a mocktail and talk business, because you don't always want it. Well, I don't want to feel fancy, but I just don't always want to be in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I want to be somewhere where the powers that be can't be like, I saw Timber sitting down and he had no, they don't even serve no liquor there.
Yes.
Don't accuse me of anything. Okay. That being said, once again, I want to send a shout out to this episode's sponsor. I'm just playing, y'all. Okay. Shop local.
Ruby Coffee.
Ooh.
Stevens Point has Ruby Roasters or Ruby Coffee Cafe, and one of my girlfriends works for their shop. She does marketing for them and then also does sales. So I've gotten to learn a lot about coffee, and it's been so intriguing. I love coffee. I've been drinking coffee since I was, middle schooler. And Ruby Coffee is just so good. And it's been so fun to get to learn about the background process from my girlfriend. But I'm all about shopping local.
Facts. Okay. One word I didn't give you, but because you are who you are, I gotta ask you, or at least I gotta say this word, and that word is diversity.
First thing that comes to my mind, oh my gosh, so much.
We're here for it all.
So much. I'm going to say, because this was the feeling that I was feeling in my previous job at the university with everything that was going on with the state representatives and conversations about funding for DEI, disheartening. Timber kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier in the very beginning about our very first conversation. And during my quarter life crisis, when I was reevaluating what do I care about my identity, about the type of work that I want to do, the type of impact, the things that I was feeling that I didn't know there were words for, which ended up being diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I leaned into it wholeheartedly, and I was talking about it all the time, which is actually how I was introduced to you, was because I was talking to my sister-in-law about it, and she knew you, her and her husband knew you, and was like, you need to connect with Timber. And, since that time, since being able to put words to assimilation, to tokenism, to code switching, things that I had always experienced, I felt like I have gone from 0 to 100 is what it feels like in my head with DEI work, and how important it has become in my life and how I choose to live my life and the products that I try and buy to support locally underrepresented owned. But it is heavy. It is tiring. It feels personally devaluing, disheartening when leaders in our world are essentially saying there's no value to that work. It feels so personally disheartening, because it feels like, well, am I not valuable to support? Are people like me not worthy enough to have resources that are made for them in a world that isn't made for them? So that's what I mean by disheartening.
Bruh. That was real. Love that. Okay. Next segment. The next segment is called the Kosh Hidden Gems. This is your opportunity to tell us about a hidden gem. Since you are not from Oshkosh, the gem does not have to be from Oshkosh, but it could be something where either everybody knows about it and maybe they don't know some cool details about it, or maybe it's something no one knows about, which is always my favorite. What do you have?
Couple of things. I have one for the surrounding area, and that is Parker John's Barbecue and Pizza in Menasha. When you said you're a barbecue guy, barbecue is my number one.
Ooh.
I mean, mom's home cooking will always take the cake, but outside of mom's cooking, barbecue is my favorite category of food. Bruh. So I love, I've been there a few times, and anytime I'm in the area, I really try and make a pit stop for some delicious barbecue, because we don't have a barbecue joint in Stevens Point. In Stevens Point, the hidden gem that actually a lot of people don't know about is this new bookstore. Actually, it's like a multi-makers space. So there is Sojourn bookstore, is on the main floor. It's this very elevated, elegant bookstore, and they are very proud carriers of banned books, which win for me. Love it. But they also have a plant shop in there. They also partner with an interior design. So any of the furniture and art that is in there is for sale. And they also have like cardstock bookmarks and greeting cards and thank you cards. So it's just this beautiful space that when you walk in, you would think you're in Minneapolis, in a very hipster town. It doesn't feel like it belongs in Point. But then upstairs is the Daisy Lounge, which is, again, this very elevated cocktail mocktail experience, super vintagey, lots of greenery. And it's a hidden gem. Not a lot of people know about it. They have silent reading club nights where you come in, grab a book from the bookstore, go upstairs, grab your cocktail, and you read in silence for an hour. And it's just people everywhere reading silently, drinking their mocktails, cocktails. And it's so beautiful.
Nice. Okay. I'm with you on that Parker Johns. That Parker Johns is you know what I learned about our Parker Johns? At least the one in Oshkosh. They have a taco night. So there's actually a barbecue.
Oh my God.
Taco, and they put a taco bar out.
Oh my gosh.
All right. And so, and if you know me, and Kosh listeners, you tend to know me pretty well. Taco's my favorite food. I live for them. And I've got a theory on life that you can't say the word taco without smiling.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing but happiness associated with tacos.
What is your favorite type of taco, though?
Oh, my favorite type of taco is carne asada.
It's a staple.
Yeah, just look, steak, cilantro, onions, properly seasoned, hopefully marinated. Yes. And since I'm out here talking about my favorite food, let me just go on and put that plug out there for Diablo's Taco Truck. If you know, you know, and I do know. So I'm trying to help you know. So
love it.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, we are on to my favorite segment of the Kosh. And I feel like this is going to be good. And I know it's going to be good because we already asked you to tell us some things, and there were some really honest, vulnerable, intriguing stories. But now it is story time. And story time is the opportunity for our guest to just tell us, me and the Kosh listeners, a story. It doesn't have to be about anything specific. It is about whatever you choose it to be. Maria, what's our story?
I want to share the story of the first time that I went to Mexico, where my family's from, as an adult. So a little backstory. I did live in Mexico during my preschool year, went to preschool in Mexico. Don't really remember much about it, but I hadn't gone back to Mexico until 2012. So I would have been 18, 19. So it was the first time me going back as an adult. I had planned this 2-week trip. I told my mom, Ma, voy a venir a visitarte. I'm coming to visit you. Everything was ready. I was so excited. I was a little nervous because at the time I just really wasn't practicing my Espanol. I don't want to say I'm a no sabo kid, but if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I was a little nervous if I could keep conversation, but everything goes well on the flight. I land in Mexico. I'm waiting for luggage. It takes some time to go through customs. I was wholeheartedly expecting my mom to be at the airport. She said she would. And I was so excited to just hug her and embrace her. It had been a while since I had seen her. And I don't see her. And I'm like, okay, she's traveling about an hour and a half to the airport. The airport's in a bigger city. No biggie. An hour goes by. 2 hours goes by. And I have my mom's phone number. Actually, it's the phone number of our neighbor because she doesn't have a phone in her house. And I try and ask someone. I had to ask someone how to use the phones because I didn't know. Their phones are different. Their phone numbers are different. I didn't know how to use it. They taught me and it wasn't working. And I was like, okay. So I waited at the airport, I want to say about 4 or 5 hours. And finally I was like, I can't just stay here. Clearly my mom forgot I was coming in or something horrible happened. And so I was just asking around, how do I get to Jaripitiro, which is where my mom lives? Tiny little village. I want to say there's probably 20 people that live there, and they're all in their 80s, 90s, and then my mom. So there's not much there. And, I'm asking around. I'm trying to find a bus. I'm trying to get a taxi. No one knows where this village is because it's that remotely tiny.
It's 20 people.
It's 20 people. And they were like, well, there's this place called La Puerta de Jaripitiro. Is that what you're talking about? Which translates to the door of Jaripitiro, or the entry of Jaripitiro. And at that point, I was like, sure, let's go. So here I am with a taxi. And Mexico is safe, but also they know when you're a tourist. They know when you're not from there. I was already scared for my life. There is a lot of corruption in Mexico in a lot of spaces and a lot of professions. And I was terrified that I was going to be kidnapped. And I'm like, this is how I die. This is how I pass away. And no one will know. Thank goodness this man was a very kind, safe man. And we got to La Puerta de Jaripitiro. And I was like, I don't think this is it. Like, this isn't the small village that I've seen pictures of, because just a month prior, my cousin had gone to Mexico and they posted pictures on Facebook. And I looked through the pictures, so I knew what it had to look like. And so this guy rolls down his window and he's like, what's your family's name? And I'm telling them like, oh, my grandma's Aurora, or the last name is Guisar. And we were asking people in this kind of bigger village, the door to the village. And they were like, oh, yeah, like your family lives down this way. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So that was just a unique experience. I've never lived in a town where people knew my family. We've lived all over. We moved so much, and I'm the only one in Stevens Point from my family. So it was such a unique experience to know that people knew my family name. So we get to there. Again, I only knew we were there because of the pictures I saw on Facebook that my cousin posted. And we got there safely, and I was like, oh yes, I think this is my mom's house or my grandma's house. I saw, what I needed to see. And sure enough, I get out of the taxi. There's this huge gate, like really tall green gate that I had to like poke my head into. I'm knocking, and there is my mother sweeping all the leaves and grabbing all the sticks. And I just was like, hola, ma. She just looks at me and is just shocked. She was like screaming happy, and then it hit her that she forgot I was coming. So that was my story about the first time I went to Mexico as an adult.
Wow. That, I don't even have words.
I had a higher being with me that day.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
The universe was working on your behalf. That's
sure
what I
was.
like to say. But I'm a firm believer that everything turns out how it's supposed to be, and the universe does what it's supposed to do. And this is definitely the case of the universe doing exactly what was supposed to happen. That is amazing.
Isn't that wild? I couldn't believe it. And then the taxi driver tried to charge me double the price. And then my mom was like, no, that's not what you got me out of that. So it all.
Mom handled it then.
Mom handled it. She was mama bird for sure. But I was like, okay, that was the only sketch. No, I don't even want to say sketchy. That was just the time where he was like, well, I don't know. She's Mexicana, so we'll see what we can try.
Well, at the end of the day, he was safe.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
We still gotta like.
That's my story.
We still gotta like him. We gotta like him.
Right.
People hustle. Okay. That was such a fantastic story, Maria. I love that. Okay. Well, but now it's that time. Every single time it makes me happy. Yes. It is now time for Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week is chosen by our guest 99.9% of the time. And this week is no different. Maria, what is our topic of the week?
Well, I thought it was appropriate that since it's a new year, or the start of the new year, that we should talk about I don't even want to say our goals. Nowadays, people are calling it the ins and outs of 2024 instead of goals or intentions or whatever else people use. Bingo cards was last year's theme. So this year, it's what is in for 2024 in your life and what are things that are out or hoping that are out. So for me, my ends of 2024 is more reading. This is something I am the type of person who used to buy X amount of books every summer, hoping, right? Expecting that I would read them and then they would just sit on a shelf and collect dust. It was too hard for me to just sit and read a book. With working on mental health, mindless scrolling is not helpful. So I'm really trying to use my time to read more. And I am proud to say I finished my first book of 2024 in 4 days.
Wow.
I'm impressed with myself.
No, that's baller stuff right there.
My girlfriends will be so proud of me when they hear this because they are actually the ones that inspired me. They have an app called Goodreads where they track what books they're reading, and you can rate books and you can comment or read people's comments about that particular book, which they're intense when it comes to books. I feel like I'm a newborn to it. So that's in for me more. There's a little library station, like a side of the road library near my house that I picked up a few books, and I'm really excited to do more of that and less scrolling.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Then we jump back in. Are we old schoolers or are we kindling it? And what was this first book of 2024?
Yeah, I would love a Kindle. I really would. And I'm sure I'll purchase one this year if I continue to read as much as I hope to. But nope, they're just the little physical books from the little library down the road. The first book was called A Part of Your World. It was a romantic comedy. It was about this really successful female doctor who lived in Minneapolis, and she met a hunky guy who lives in a town of 600 people who's the mayor and owns an Airbnb and does woodworking, and they fall in love. But how can they fall in love when their lives are just, they don't fit? That was the book.
This is a Hallmark movie.
As I was reading it, I was like, I would absolutely watch this on Netflix, 100%. And I hope that they make it into a movie because I could not stop reading it. And I'm still in the space where I'm learning what kind of books I like. I love thriller, mind twisting. I know that because I love listening to crime podcasts. I love following on anything crime related. I'm a psychology major, so it's just wild to me the things that happen in our brains to allow people to do this. So it's just fascinating. But yeah, that was the first book.
Okay.
By Abby Jimenez.
All right. We're back on the ends.
All right. Having more protein. I am really bad at eating protein. So I'm really trying to find ways to fit protein into my eating habits because protein is important for our body. Themed dinner parties, which we've already talked about, that is in for 2024 in my life. Cooking more or attempting recipes. That is one thing about social media. I follow an Instagram account called Half Baked Harvest. And this past weekend when I hosted my in-laws, all of my recipes were from Half Baked Harvest. And it's amazing because she makes these reels of her cooking the dishes. So in that, and you had mentioned this earlier, when you can see it, it feels more approachable. Like, oh, I can do that. Versus when you're reading cooking cranberry brown sugar glazed pork chops that are like, ooh, that feels like too much,
Mm-hmm.
So buying quality pieces for my home and for my wardrobe. And I feel thankful that I'm in a time in my life where I can do that, or I can be more picky, have the privilege of looking for pieces that are longer lasting, ethically made, maybe locally made. So I'm really focusing on spending my dollars there and things that I don't have to buy every year because they're $25, but it breaks.
Right.
Creative hobbies, which I've already talked a little bit about. I'm really leaning into learning about styling, and I picked up watercolor painting for fun. And things that are out for me this year are Diet Coke. I'm a Diet Coke girly, but carbonation is horrible for your teeth. Horrible. My sister-in-law's a dental hygienist, so she always tells me. And imposter syndrome. It is a year of confidence. It is a year of believing in knowing your skill sets while also knowing there's room to grow and be challenged. So imposter syndrome is out this year.
Okay. I like this.
Isn't
ins
it
and
fun?
out. Well, it's just better than like what's your
Resolution.
resolution? No, what's
Yeah.
in and what's out. Like, yeah, let's talk about that. And the fact that there's an out. So let's talk about what we not gonna do no more.
Yeah.
Because we only talk about what we gonna try to do, right?
Yes.
So I love this ins and outs. Okay, fantastic. Any others? Is there anything else? What's creeping around that you haven't committed to yet? Because there's always those couple of things I feel like you're kind of like, well, I should, but maybe it's not fully formed enough that you're like, I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the end, or I don't know if I'm ready to give that up yet, even though I probably should. I'm not there yet. Anything there?
Yes, there are things in the stratosphere floating around. Two things, actually. One of them being Fiesta Point, which if you're in the Stevens Point area, you may know. If not, this is a great plug-in. So I am the founder of Fiesta Point, which is Stevens Point First Hispanic Heritage Month celebration, celebration. My first year doing Fiesta Point with community partners, actually community business owners, we were able to put on 11 or 12 events throughout a month span, which was a lot. And that was 2022. So I felt so burnt out from that I actually didn't end up doing anything for 2023, which makes me really sad. I felt like I came in too hot without really knowing what my capacity was, and it burnt me out to the point where I was like, I can't do it again. So things that are in the stratosphere is reviving that this year, but creating a committee of people that help me plan maybe just one big event that highlights and represents our communities in Stevens Point, which we have Nicaraguan, Mexican, and a few other identities. So I don't know what that'll look like, and it's scary. But this is that imposter syndrome that I'm saying is it needs to be out. So that, and I actually did launch at the end of this year just a Facebook group called Chingonas de Central Wisconsin, which translates to like baddies, bad. Can I swear on here?
If you need to.
Like badass women. So female identifying people, Latinas in Central Wisconsin, can join this Facebook group. And it's a way to build community, to share if you have businesses or talents or skills. But it came about because I was feeling lonely in the sense that I didn't have friends that represented my identity. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but as I've mentioned so many times, I'm in this journey of really embracing and accepting my identity. And I want to see that in all parts of my life now, including my friend group. And so I made it for me selfishly so I can meet other Latina women in the community and build community for myself. But also if I'm feeling that way,
There's
most
others.
likely there's other Latina women feeling that way. So those are the things floating in the air that I know once I step into it'll be full force, so I'm a little timid to step into it.
All right, let me just throw out there, you should think about reaching out, which you probably already know, Casa Hispana, because Casa Hispana throws Latino Fest in Appleton, and that celebration is serious.
It's amazing. I went to it this year.
Oh, you went this year?
Yeah.
Okay, it was fire this year.
It was amazing. The food trucks. I actually took my in-laws, which was such a special thing for me. And that's what I mean. Like my in-laws are white. So, I getting to show them culturally these beautiful pieces is just so fun. And they had a great time. So,
okay. Yep. I was there. I was messing around. I went to about 3 food trucks because, there was different representation.
Yeah.
There was a couple of culture stuff that I ain't never had.
So good.
Yes. So, I'm about that life. Anything else on this topic?
No, I feel like we've touched on everything, yet also nothing. I feel like there's so much to say.
Because there is.
Yeah.
Facts. Okay. Well, it's that time, Kosh listeners, where we start winding down. Hey, Kosh listeners. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and your ears. Thank you for being interested enough in another amazing community member, learning what they do, how they add value to our greater community. When we say the word community doesn't have boundaries because we are all connected in some way. So Maria is one of us too. She's Kosh. As you know, we are a work in progress. Please feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know if you want to be on the show. Let us know if you know someone that you want to be on the show. All of those qualify for reasons to email us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, that is askthekosh@gmail.com. Let me tell you right now, the spaces are filling up. We are booking out months in advance. People are listening, and people like this show. So, don't be scared. Come on in. I promise you, it's comfortable, right, Maria?
Oh, absolutely. I'm cozy.
It's cozy. All right, I like that. All right. Also, Kosh listeners, I got an ask for you, and that ask is really simple. Take a moment and hit the subscribe button. If you already listened to the Kosh, just hit subscribe. And then also, it would be awesome if you would take just a moment and leave us a little brief review. What this does is it improves our analytics. We have something pretty special here at the Kosh. And I'm hopeful that this gets in front of more ears, so more people can learn about our neighbors, learn about who's in our community and the things that they're doing or the things they're interested in or how they're adding value and how we should be welcoming them in, which is the most important thing. Okay? Now, before we jump off into another favorite spot of the show, I just want to take another brief moment to say this episode is sponsored by Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distillery. It makes me super happy to say this, and I'm not just talking smack because you know what? This is the place I hang out. This is my libations church. There is a great team of individuals. It is an atmosphere like no other. My wife loves it too, which says everything. If we both like the same establishment, there's something to it. There's a lot to it. And they will make a drink just for you. And that's what it feels like. And the people are super friendly. And there ain't no TVs. This ain't that spot. There is jazz music. And there is no TVs. And there are yummy libations. I don't know if they make mocktails, but maybe we'll have a conversation with them about those too. I'm sure they can because they are amazing. So just big shout out to Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distillery here in the Kosh. Now, on to the very, very special part of the show. Let's go on and make this happen. It is shout out time. All right, Maria, who you going to shout out?
All right. I feel like I got a list. So first things first, I want to shout out the Diversity and College Access team at UW Stevens Point. The entire team are such amazing, selfless, incredible people who just so deeply care for the students of Stevens Point, Wausau, and Marshfield. So, and there's so many people at the university who have DEI at the forefront and are really, their actions show it, that aren't a part of the team, but absolutely the team. The UWSP Latino Student Alliance, they are my kids. I always calling them my kids and they hate it, but they are amazing. My mentor, Alex Izquierdo, he has gotten me through so much of my most recent career. All of my other mentors as well. The LPA, Latino Professional Association of Northeast Wisconsin. If you don't know about it and you are Latinx identifying, please join. I'm in Central Wisconsin, and the impact that they have had on my life, the community, is incredible. And I've gotten to meet so many amazing people like Maria Lara, Maria Padilla, Juan Corpus.
Ooh, that's my man right there. Big shout out to Juan Corpus.
They are an amazing organization. They have worked with my Latinx students at UWSP and are continuing to work and pour into them. So they have a huge spot in my heart. And of course, my in-laws, my family, my husband. I'll stop there because I could keep going.
Hey, don't act like I wasn't gonna let you just go. I did not give you a look. I started sipping some tea.
Right.
I was just gonna let you go.
Fine. One more. The Multicultural Resource Center at UW Green Bay. Cindy Johnson over there, amazing human. They have it, they're doing amazing work as well. And I see it and I hear about it. And they're hiring, UWSP is hiring MRC coordinator. Just throwing that out there.
Okay. Since you brought that up, I just want to throw out there that UW Oshkosh is hiring right now for some of our recruiters, people in the admissions counselors, cultural recruiters, particularly for one recruiter for African-American students and one recruiter for Latinx students. So I'm just throwing that out there. If you've got questions, please reach out to the Kosh. I'd be happy to connect you because I used to do that job. And I can't stress how important that job is. Okay. Shout outs. So my shout outs are going to go, hey, you know what today was? This week was my first week back to work. I took like the last 2 weeks of the year off, which is what I tend to try to do if I got notification. So I took that time, and then that means when you come back, that was going to be my original what in the world is going on with. Like, what in the world is going on with that feeling when you've been off for a couple of weeks and you come back to work and people are looking at you like, do you still work here? I thought you left. I'm just I'm just saying. But these were people that I got to have meetings with or conversations with throughout this week, and that just got me back in the groove because they're amazing people. Shout out to Greta Lax, Peter Lee, to Neo, Medina, to Alonzo Kelly, to Sherry Needens, all individuals that I just got to have these conversations with. Big shout out to everybody kicking off their new year. And for those who got those gym memberships, I'm just going to shout y'all out and say, you better keep going. I'm just calling it out right now. And then you got this. Last but not least, I want to send a big shout out to my man, Josh and Marcy.
Yes.
The franchise. That's what I call them. I call them the franchise. And I'm going to tell the story on that. Like, I'm a person that, like, if you really in my life, when you're in my life, you get a nickname at some point. And my man, Josh, we used to work together back in the day at Office Max, right? At Office Max, I was a sales manager and he was my tech man. Right. And, we had these goals. You gotta sell stuff. And not only did you sell it, you had to sell the warranty with it, right? And so that's how they kind of judged how much selling was going on, because the warranty doesn't sell itself, right? It doesn't sell itself. Like, if someone actually talked to you about your product, if the warranty went out the door with the product, because no one walks up to the counter and says, oh, give me that printer in the warranty too. That just don't happen.
The amount of warranties I have declined on all the things that I've bought or we've had to buy for our home is a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
But
it takes it's a gift, right? Because they are good. And I've watched it work for people where something goes wrong. But nonetheless, I digress. But my man Josh, the franchise, was the man who was like, he was always a performer. He stepped up and he put up big numbers all the time. And that is why he got the nickname The Franchise.
I did not know that.
That is why.
I'm going to pull that out the next time I see him.
He is the franchise. So you know what? When I see him, I actually have to think about what his first name is because I just call him the franchise. And then I'm not even going to, his amazing, amazing wife, Marcy.
Yes.
She is wonderful.
She's amazing.
So I just want to send that shout out.
They're a part of my in-laws in case you didn't catch that.
Yes, facts. That's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we are at the very last part of the show. And the last part of the show is you get 3 choices. Okay. Your 3 choices are this. Choice A, parting words of wisdom for the Kosh listeners. Choice B, what would yourself today tell your 13-year-old self? Ooh. And then option C, which is like every good multiple choice test. All of the above. You get to do both if you choose to. So.
Ooh, okay.
All right, Maria, what are you feeling?
We're going to do option C.
Let's go.
All right. Words of wisdom. If you're on a therapy journey, I'm so proud of you. If you're not, everyone can use a little therapy. There's nothing to be ashamed about. But if you're on a therapy journey, find a therapist that identifies with you. I have had multiple therapists, but the one I have currently is the first woman of color that I have had. And the intricacies of being a person of color or anyone, any other identity, LGBTQ or indigenous or whatever the identity is, having someone from a similar background and understanding is a game changer in therapy. It truly has been a game changer. So that would be my words of wisdom. Find a therapist and find a therapist that represents you. Now, if Maria had to tell 13-year-old, we're going to call her Lupita because that was my nickname growing up. That's what I was known by at 13, Lupe or Lupita. What advice would I have? You said what advice?
What would you share? What would you share with her?
I would share. It's going to get emotional. I would share that although it feels and it is hard, the translating, the parenting your siblings and parenting your parents and having to grow up fast and everything that you experienced at that age, it's hard and it sucks, but it's going to give you a drive in your future that you wouldn't have probably had otherwise. And you're going to be able to look back and see how everything in your life prepared you for what you've done already, but also for what's to come. And some big things are coming.
Yes. Whoo, that went hard. What you think?
Whew. Yeah, it was whole. Only word I can describe it.
The Kosh